welcome to the show. And freelance personal banking. Can you describe to me what that is about and what it's like?
So freelance business banker is the tagline. Finance broking is actually what I do. Finance broking is about finding the right debt solution to any individual business's needs and problems. So I'm Andrew Stewart, and that's what I do for a job, and I love it.
What's your first job, for instance?
Well, I grew up on a farm, so my first job was doing whatever, my dad had lined up for me, which might have been driving a truck or working in the shearing shed. So I can say that probably my first job was doing jobs around the farm or for my uncle.
And how did you get from there to being a freelance banker, getting business loans for people, helping them with their debt?
Well, life's a bit of a journey, isn't it?
Yeah.
And my career has been one of those. But so I've run my own businesses, and through that time, my understanding of business has grown and evolved, and I came to see that I had other skills other than just managing businesses. So I used those skills of running my own businesses, now working for people to solve problems of their own in their businesses.
It's interesting on our journeys, and we get our first jobs and we get our first paychecks. Can you remember what the first thing was that you bought?
Yeah, I can actually. When I was watching movies when I was a kid, I thought anybody that came into money and had done well, the first thing they went and bought was a nice suit or another. And so when I was running my first business and I had received my first income from that business, I went and bought a jacket. I went and bought a sports coat.
A sports coat. When you mentioned that life was a journey there, and you've come from the farm and to where you are now. What new skills have you acquired along the way that's enabled you to make those transitions along the way?
I think the key has been slowing down and listening to people and understanding what it is that drives them and where they're going to, because it's all about contextualizing experience and people. So there's never any right answer to anything. So it's probably the thing that I've learned is to suspend judgment and allow people their own room to be who they are.
It's interesting you say you listen to other people. That's one of the skills you've learned. One of the other things I've learned from talking to business owners, they always say they need something outside of business to give them that mental break, and they always talk about their hobbies. Have you got any hobbies?
I probably have 3 hobbies. And one of them is going to sound a little bit cliche, but that is I really do like going along to watch my kids play the sport, because I'm not thinking about work. I am just in the moment and watching how they're playing and interacting with their teammates and how they're all coming together as a team. So that's one. Secondly, I ride motorcycles. So I do like getting on the motorbike because it's riding defensively, right? There's nothing, you're watching out to see where the next accident's potentially coming from. But you are totally in the moment and you're not thinking about, I'm not diverted, I'm just in the moment. And the third hobby would be, I enjoy reading Eastern philosophy, particularly and exploring meditation. So I spend my time doing amongst those 3 things.
Apart from having hobbies, and we talk to business owners and they talk about the challenges and what it's like being in business themselves, what does it mean being in business for yourself to you?
For me, well, without over-intellectualizing it, it's about the experience of self-actualization. It's about coming up with an idea or a thought and using my own motivation and skills to solving the problem, and bringing that idea into reality. Now, you can do that working with other people and for other people, but I suppose it's just part of my inner being, and so I enjoy the experience of relying on me.
You've talked about what it's like being in business for yourself. You know, a new day is always a new day. But how's your career business? How have you managed your career, and you know what actually happened eventually for you to end up in your own business?
It's a really great question, but it doesn't take much thinking to go back to the moment in time when that happened. And so I think I was 20 at the time, and I had the opportunity. My father was happy to back me into an opportunity to run my own business. So I hadn't spent more than probably 3 months working for anybody doing a real job until then, because I was at uni or doing my real job was probably bumping chairs in snowfields. So that's not a real job, right? But when I went back and went into business, did I suddenly find my imagination set fire, and I realised how empowering it was to work for myself, and that to see things done, and that I was in control of seeing those things done, that I was using all the resources, people, and things and machinery to get everything done, and that I was the architect of my own success.
Wow. You were saying then that your father backed you into getting to it. Was that the first break you had?
Yeah.
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 And if you were reflecting back on Dad, what do you think gave him the confidence to back you?
Well, I suppose it wasn't a business that was new to us as a family, so he knew the business back to front. And I knew how to carry out most of the skills involved, and he was going to be overseeing and keeping an eye on things.
He was going to be like a mentor.
Yeah, correct. Yeah,
for the whole
exactly.
thing.
Yeah.
What was the business?
It was running another farm, actually. Yeah.
Oh wow.
So he had his own farm, and then we had an opportunity to lease and manage another large farm nearby. And he said, I've got enough to do, but this is probably something that you can handle. And so that's where it all started.
You know, you look at Dad as being a mentor, and I guess for a lot of us that ends up, and that's a big thing for him to back you into that. Have you had other mentors along the way? What's your opinion around mentors and mentorship?
Oh, it's quite actually a liberating experience to be able to talk through that process of what you're doing and managing your business. To talk that through with somebody else is a really important and therapeutic cathartic way to go about doing things, because it's business, right? There's probably not a lot of new wheels get invented. It's just different combinations of things. So any experience that we're going through, somebody's probably been through it. And also there's another really important process, which is getting out what's in your mind. You can listen to your own thoughts all day long, but until you actually verbalise them, do you think, oh yeah, and reflect on what you're thinking, and you go, oh yeah, that doesn't. Yeah. That needs more, airing. And to do that with somebody is very, very important. Yeah. So.
Is it a challenge finding the right mentors? How have you done it over the years? How have you managed to find people who are trustworthy enough to share those inner thoughts with?
For me, it was a very subconscious process. I would meet people, but suddenly you meet a lot of people. Suddenly you meet someone and you go, oh wow. There's a vibe. There's a tone in their voice. There's an experience. You find a little bit about their experience. You go, oh no, there's something more about this person which I'd like to get to know. So I found that for me that was an attractiveness that made me want to go up and spend more time with them. And in situations where there's a number of people that might have been able to mentor me, that's been my my guide for finding whom I would work with, because you have to respect them and understand, I think, where they're coming from, and it's a friendship type of process.
It's interesting when we talk about mentors and friendship, but at the end of the day, the responsibilities for the success or the failure of a business lies with ourselves. Do you feel that as a burden of running your own business? How do you feel that those pressures or deal with those challenges?
Since the moment I was 20 and running my own business, I've never felt the burden of running and managing a business. It's been a completely liberating and wonderful experience. And it doesn't matter how dark the days get, I just understand it and enjoy it, even despite that. Here's an example. I owned and managed a factory in India for many years, as well as one in Australia, so both at the same time. And I had about 18 employees in India, and they all go on strike. And then I have to go through the courts, in the labour courts in a foreign country, with the pressures of it being my own money that's at stake in that factory and in that. But so that's a dark day by any business owners and managers measure, but never really was a burden. It might have been a pain, but it's a temporary one. Working through the challenges is the liberating thing.
It's interesting. I can imagine that being a dark day, going to a foreign country and a foreign court. Goodness me. I like how you said it was temporary, and therefore it just passes, something you work through. But I suppose along the journey, have you any regrets professionally or personally since being in business for yourself? Or any advice you give people as they go through these things?
Well, there is always going to be things that we regret, that we could have done better, or decisions or opportunities we should have taken which we didn't, opportunities we did take but which we shouldn't. But you've got to approach running business as you approach life. You just can't get bent out of shape about things that don't happen your way in the best possible way. There's not a straight, direct line to the end, to the goal. It's a journey. So it's drawing the experience out of the bad things as well as the good things. So you've always got to look forward, cognizant of the lessons that we've learned from the past.
And how have you found, like you mentioned, your children going to the sports, and how have they accepted it? Dad runs his own business for himself. How does the family cope with that?
Well, they've kind of grown up with it, so I don't know that they know any different in some ways. They probably think they've probably taken a guide from the way that I approach things and think about things. So they think it's a regular gig.
It's just normal.
Yeah. But they've probably come away with a sense of aspiration about always probably wanting to choose, when they do something, to do the best that they can at it. They see a self-responsibility. I think that's probably what they've taken away from them.
Really, that self-responsibility that you're talking about, that is an incredible lesson, and it's a really endearing quality, I think, for anyone to have who wants to be successful, whether in their own business or working for other people. But along the way, when you've had your career and the success you've had, what strengths do you think, or the qualities that you have that's enabled that to happen?
I think resilience is one. The ability to listen, second. Learning from mistakes. But that all comes together in the ability to probably think in a more macro, in a broader level, so that taking multiple options and inputs, I think I have the ability to pull together a clear path through with a lot of information. So that's probably what it boils down to.
It's certainly been an interesting journey from farm to Indian manufacturing to freelance business banking. What's next for Andrew Stewart?
Well, there's always problems with whatever we're in and we're doing. So the current problem that we see as business brokers of finance is that not all the financiers recognise the strength in the business models that they're looking at. To say that a different way, there's a lot of businesses that aren't getting the funding that they need to get. And despite me being able to go to the market with a lot of different lenders, there are still gaps. So along with a couple of colleagues, I think we've got to come up with another type of financier that will fill the gaps in the market where we can't get finance for good quality businesses, and or where good quality businesses aren't getting their funds priced at the right price. So it could well be starting my own bank.
Wow. Wow, your own bank, yes.
You've got to be ambitious in life, don't you?
Absolutely. No, I'll be ambitious. I'll be knocking on the door full of ambition. But Andrew, it's been great talking to you. But you've had a lot of experience over the years. For people who may be going into business now for the first time or are in business and looking to grow, what are one or two pieces of advice that you would share from your learnings?
That as a business owner, you're aware of a lot of things, but we don't know what we don't know. So there's always something more to learn about, no matter what aspect of the business it is. And so it's important to always constantly challenge oneself with one's habits and ways of doing things. So whether it's how you're managing the staff or how you're looking for your finance, there's probably a better way to do it if we ask the right people. And so it's being open to new ideas and to new advice.
Absolutely fantastic. I couldn't have said it better myself. That was brilliant advice. Andrew, thanks for joining us today on Business Profiles. I've really enjoyed it.
Thanks, Mike.